Is it Splatfest time? I didn't even check. But I think a Splatfest might be going on. I didn't even think about it. Oh, yeah. Oh, shit. Okay. Yeah, we're starting late tonight. Because... things. It's what? Love, fame, and money. And I think we went capitalism, just for the hell of it. And capitalism's winning at the moment. One day I'll play that new stage. I don't know, there is... I wonder if they're going to add Arc Polaris in the next update. Because the next update's probably going to be in September. Of which we're less than halfway there, I guess. But I could see them adding Arc Polaris. Which was a map I didn't really spend much time on in Splatoon. Because, was it the last... It might have been the last map added. I kind of don't remember. It's been a while. So, tonight, we actually have a fair few... Again, we're past the June and July information slump, right? Gaming news always goes down in June and July, after E3, basically. But we're now in August, and so news has picked up. So we have, what? 5 stories? Yeah, we got 5 stories. Well, 5 stories I'm choosing to talk about. So, yeah. And then I have played some video game. Yeah, for the first time in a while, I did play some video game. I actually beat 2 games. They were both very short, but I did beat 2. And then I started a third one that we'll talk about briefly. So yeah, so our news stories, we got a Minecraft one, because there's something I want to talk about with Minecraft. We got a Rockstar Take-Two story, because they're making moves, I guess. We got Devolver. Devolver had their Devolver Delayed, and I said we were going to talk about that. Talk about what games got delayed. Pokemon had their presentation, which I'm going to recap. I also realized, as I was setting up today, that I never uploaded the archive. I never uploaded the stream of the Pokemon Presents to YouTube. So I have to do that in the coming days. And then THQ Nordic, earlier today, held some sort of conference or something. And I have at least 2 things that I want to quickly talk about there. And then, of course, we got WIBE. So, it'll probably be an hour and a half long show. You know, that tends to be our standard rate. I don't have anything other than games in WIBE this time, right? Still, solidarity with the writer's strike. I know they're gonna, probably next week, we're gonna find out what the AMTPT countered. Because the AMTP and the writers, I want to say it was the writers, finally had a meeting earlier this week. And of course, we don't know what's being said yet. But based on the whole attitudes and what I'm hearing, it does not seem that positive. But we'll find out next week. But other than that, everything's still, people are still keeping up the good fight. And studios are just doing more bullish things to prove that, yeah, we do that writers and actors deserve, everything they need, right? Because we've had, Disney raising the prices on Disney Plus and Hulu, cracking down on password sharing, all sorts of things to encourage being a pirate. Because yar har shiver me be. Being a pirate is all we can be. Oh, those look... Just narrative, those look really small. So yeah, we got a pretty straightforward show. You know, plenty of little things to talk about. So yeah. I would say I've got lots of water, but I am very thirsty. Yeah, that's good stuff. Water. We talked about the Kool-Aid last week, right? 48. I'm, again, with like probably 20-ish days left in the season. I've got a lot of work to do. Honestly, this will probably be the first season I don't finish the pass on. Just because I really don't. I don't know. I might be playing the game more soon. Because of, things. But maybe not. I don't know. We'll see. Still a good game, though. Alright, so let's talk about Minecraft. So, Minecraft is putting out new snapshots for the 1.20.2 update. And the big thing in this new snapshot is they're making changes to villagers. Basically, instead of having, like, villagers give random books, they now give set books. And, like, it depends on the biome. So, right, like, the one that everyone's talking about, of course, is that in swamp villagers now give mending books. So you can only find mending books in swamp villages. But, right, things like Infinity, I want to say Fortune 3 might be one of them. I don't know. Basically, like, if you max out the level of a villager, that's where you get the best books. Now, villagers right now in current Minecraft are very OP. Right? The current way villagers work, right? You just need to get one mending villager, and it's fucking OP. So, I actually do, in theory, think this is a good change, but I have seen the counter-argument that I do kind of agree with. That, does this change make the game more fun? Like, it balances it, sure, but does it make it more fun? Especially because there are no swamp villages. If you want to get a swamp villager, you have to cure it. Right? You have to use a golden apple, which you can no longer craft, by the way. Right? Because that used to be... Because that was another thing that the developers deemed too OP. And they literally have added and removed the crafting recipe for golden apples like 2 times at this point. But does what they're doing here make the game more fun? Right? Like, we talked a few weeks... God, probably over 2 months ago when Tears of the Kingdom came out. We talked about how, right... James Stephanie Sterling, they raised the question that, has anybody ever played a game and said, would weapon... you know, this was a good game, but you know what would make it better? Weapon durability. And yeah, they're completely right. I completely agree with that. I don't mind weapon durability, but I've never played a game and thought, you know what would make this game better? Weapon durability. And that's kind of what it feels like a lot of the changes in Minecraft are. To, you know, balance out the game. It's like, I get it, right? This thing is OP and whatnot. But did anybody actually ask for them to make this change? I mean, like, okay, I think the bigger problem is mending itself. Because Minecraft has systems in place for you to repair items. But the second they introduced mending, all of those systems became obsolete. Right? The biggest example I can think of is Phantoms. Phantoms were, I know people hate them. But when Phantoms were introduced, they were kind of important because they dropped Phantom Membranes. And Phantom Membranes were what you used to repair Elytras. But then once they introduced mending, that got rid of that entire system. I don't know anybody who has replaced an Elytra, or who has fixed an Elytra with a Phantom Membrane. Because you just get mending on your Elytra, and boom, you never need to worry about it. So, right, is the bigger problem mending? But do I want them to take out mending? Not really. Like, I think that's a bad idea. But is mending too OP? So, like, do they want to try to balance it? Yeah, like, I get that. But does it make the game more fun? No. In fact, it makes the game grindier. Which is a big problem in modern video games. Is being too grindy. God, just look at freaking Marvel's Avengers. I don't know why that's the first one that came to mind, but it is. Right? Games have become very grindy. Games have become second jobs, basically. Like, that's what Destiny wants to be. Destiny and Fortnite want to be your second job. And, you know, different games succeed or fail at different levels. But yeah, no, it's just... And, like, Minecraft, I don't think is a game that's a second job. Because, you know, nowadays, Minecraft feels like the game you play for 2 weeks, every 6 months, and it's the most fun you ever have, and then you don't think about it, right? I played it back in, June? Played it for about 2 weeks, had a lot of fun, got really annoyed as well, and then I haven't played it since. And, I mean, I couldn't even get the achievement at the time because it was bugged. And that was super annoying. So, yeah, I don't... It's like, I get why they make the change. I do think in the long run it probably is a good change. I don't know. I've honestly only ever done the mending villager thing, like, once. Like, it's not really... Like, when on my average Minecraft world, it's not something I really do. And, like, for new players, like, unless you're, you know, looking stuff up on, like, you know, YouTube and Wikipedia and whatnot, a new player's never going to know about that, right? A new player's never going to know how to make a villager mending farm. And it goes back to that question we asked a few months ago. What is Minecraft's audience? Is it these players who have been playing the game for years, who, you know, do countless research on Wikipedia and YouTube? And I'm just using Wikipedia as a catch-all here to, you know, find out the most efficient way to do things? Or is it just some random Joe Schmo who boots up the game with no tutorial? Because that's one of Minecraft's biggest problems, is that it doesn't have a tutorial. I mean, it did on Xbox and PlayStation, I guess, when it first released. Was it on? Yeah, it was on PS3. It had to have been. Yeah, it had a tutorial world, but that doesn't exist anymore. But that was always Minecraft's biggest problem. Right when I first started playing, I didn't realize you had to hold the button to break blocks, and instead I would just click it rapidly. Everyone's got a Minecraft story like that, where they like didn't understand how something worked, right? I remember, who was it? Was it Minecraft chick, Lydia Winters, who's worked at Mojang for like a decade now, who when they first played, they thought, instead of placing blocks, you had to, like, drop them, you know, using, like, Q or whatever. Yeah, so it was something, I remember something like that. So, yeah, most people have a Minecraft story like that. Right, like, everyone's built a dirt house at some point. It's just tradition. But, yeah, I don't know. I'm curious to see what they're going to do with the next update. You know, are we going to finally get that new dimension? Because I'm assuming there's going to be like a Minecon in like, what, October or something? Isn't that normally when it is? Another mob vote that pisses people off. But like, that's the whole point of mob votes. Mob votes are designed to piss you off. Like, that's why they do them. Because controversy is the key. Yeah. Okay, next up, so Rockstar / Take-Two announced that they are bringing Red Dead Redemption, the original Red Dead Redemption, to Nintendo Switch and PlayStation. PS4 specifically. Not PC, and not Xbox. Now, the Xbox I figured out basically immediately. Because, technically, the Xbox, I think Series X even, has backwards compatibility to the Xbox 360. So on an Xbox Series X, you can play Xbox 360 backwards compatible Red Dead Redemption. That's why they're not bringing it to that system. However, the PS4 does not have backwards compatibility with the PS3. because the PS3 was such a fucking mess of a designed system. That was just, you know, it's fucking, what was it? It's not its solid state drive. Was it its special, like, core processor or something? I don't know. Something was so badly designed that basically doing PS3 backwards compatibility and PS3 emulation is a pain in the ass because of the PlayStation's unique architecture. So that's kind of where, that's why they are bringing it to PS4, because yeah, no, it doesn't, you can't backwards compatibility Red Dead Redemption 3 from Red Dead Redemption from PS3. It makes sense. Why they aren't bringing it to PC, I have no idea. I know people really want to play Red Dead on PC. Because yeah, Rockstar Games didn't, like the first Rockstar game that launched on PC, that was like a big deal, was GTA. Because I don't think GTA 4 did. I don't think, yeah, Red Dead didn't. GTA 5 didn't at launch, it took a few years. I know some of the older ones, like Vice City and San Andreas, were on PC. But that was a long time ago. So yeah, I'm surprised it's not coming to PC. Because I know people really want that. It coming to Switch makes perfect sense, in my opinion. I will say, there was a rumor a few months ago about Red Dead Redemption 2 coming to Switch. Did that ever come to fruition? I legitimately can't remember if that was ever announced to be a thing. Because I know it was a rumor like around Nintendo Direct season. That I don't think that ever actually got announced. But that was definitely a rumor for a while. Were they maybe talking about this? I don't think so. I'm still surprised GTA 5 never came to Switch. I feel like GTA 5 should have launched on Switch years ago. Kind of like it should have been launched the same time as like Overwatch did. Back in like, what, 2018? And it just never did. And it really blows my mind that that never happened. Yeah, and now the big sticking point for a lot of people with this Red Dead is that the game is launching at, not $60, $50. So I want to say on the Nintendo eShop, it is $49.99. That's pretty expensive. I mean, I saw people get in a fuss about Pikmin's 1 and 2 being that price, and that was 2 games. So yeah, one, you know, fucking, it's at least 10 years, it might be 12 years old now. I don't remember, I want to say, it might have been 2008, Red Dead Redemption. It's been a long time, right? Of course, people are mad about the price point, and I get it, especially because this does not seem to be a remaster. It just seems to be a port of the old games onto new systems, right? They're not redoing any of the textures or anything. They are adding Undead Nightmare, which I've never played Undead Nightmare, so that's actually a cool get, I guess. Because I was kind of curious about it at the time. I did own Red Dead Redemption 3 on the Xbox 360. I keep saying Red Dead Redemption 3. I owned it. I own the original. I put some time into it, but not much, and I definitely never beat the story. I'm almost out of water already. But it's, I know people like Red Dead Redemption. I know it hasn't aged perfectly. Like, it's definitely got some problems that people are fully willing to admit nowadays. But, you know, that's every Rockstar game. Within a few years of release, people go back and realize, oh, wait, these Rockstar games are actually pretty flawed. GTA 4, specifically. I remember people going back to GTA 4 and just being like, gosh, this is not good. Like, you know, for being one of the highest reviewed games of all time, it has not aged well. But no, so Red Dead is coming. Will I pick it up? No, probably not. I mean, I never even played Red Dead 2. I think I did eventually pick up a copy of that game for like $10, $20 like a year ago, but I've never actually played it. I should at some point. It's in my backlog of like 1,000 games to play. So next up is Devolver Delayed. So Devolver Digital held their Delay showcase. Oh, I ran out. And so there was a series of games they announced that were delayed, and a series of games that were announced that were not delayed. So the one that I had predicted going in was Plucky Squire. I knew 100% Plucky Squire was going to be a delayed. And guess what? Plucky Squire was delayed. That sucks, but I hope the developers pull out something great. I have faith in them. That's going to turn out great. Pepper Grinder is another one that the delay sucks, because that's like the drilling one, and that looks very interesting. So that's another delay that sucks, but I'm sure it'll be great when it comes out. Skate Story, very visually interesting, very musically interesting. It's a very music-heavy game. Not entirely my style, because, I'm not good at rhythm games. But it still looks very good. And that one got delayed. That makes sense. Angerfoot, I think Angerfoot is 3D Hotline Miami. It doesn't really do it for me. And then the final game to get delayed was Stick It to the Stickman. Probably because there was already a game called Stick It to the Man. Yeah, and it's a weird one. Like, it's like one of those like sticky hands that you'd like sling onto glass. But there is a game called Stick It to the Man. So Stick It to the Stickman. It kind of reminds me of that. What's that? That one. Is it just called Stick Fight? Right. It's like those. It's like that. Those like animations that are like stick fighting that you see on YouTube every once in a while, or at least they show up in my recommendations. I don't know if I've ever even watched one. Right, it's that art style. There's definitely another game. It's called like Stick Fighters or something. It's actually kind of fun. It's a fun game where it's like 4-player co-op, and you're fighting a Stickman, and you get like weird weapons, and there's like laser guns and snake launchers. It's an interesting little game, but it kind of has that art style. But it's about like going through an office building and just fucking shit up. Going postal. Telling your boss off, right? Stick it to the stick man. So it look. I'd never heard of this game before, but it actually looks pretty decent. I'm actually kind of like interested in it. Will it potentially fall into the sort of My Fen Pedro Katana Zero thing of like a game that looks interesting, but I'm awful at, and that's why I probably won't play it. Maybe, but I still think it's interesting. And right, if it wasn't for the showcase, I would have literally never heard of this game. So that's the stuff that was delayed. But there are plenty of games that aren't delayed either. Talos Principle 2 is still coming out this year. I've never played the original Talos Principle. I really should. I think it's on Switch. I should give that a shot. I really should. Gunbrella. This was I would not have been surprised if Gunbrella had gotten delayed. It very much seemed, right, kind of like, Pepper Grinder. It would have made sense if it had gotten delayed. But it didn't. So that's really cool. It is, I want to say it's the same developers as Gato Roboto, which is a game I loved. They also did that game that was only on physical cartridge on Switch I think it came out like last year. That was an okay time. So Gunbrella looks interesting. Much better than the Splatbrella here in Splatoon. Gah, what a fucking awful weapon. It sucks that they ruined that weapon. Karmazu, which I do not remember what that game is. Wizard with a Gun, which is basically Don't Starve. But, with more like magic mechanics and whatnot. I know nothing about Don't Starve. It's really a game I've never really played. But hey, Wizard with a Gun is fine. And then the Cosmic Wheel of is it the Cosmic Wheel Sisterhood? I want to say it was like tarot cards and whatnot. I don't know entirely what the gameplay is like, but from what I've seen of it, it looks interesting. I could see it being like one of those like surprise indie hits, kind of like Coffee Talk or I don't know. Did Goodbye Volcano High come out? Was that any good? I don't know, there's that one rhythm, or there's that one music RPG that came out this week that I'm kind of interested in, but I don't know if I'm actually going to play. It'd be a great Game Pass game. I don't know if it's on Game Pass. But yeah, there's that one music RPG that looks kind of interesting. But yeah, so there's 5 games that are coming out this year and 5 games that got delayed. So Devolver's doing a lot. And yeah, it all looks very interesting. Alright, I'm gonna take a second right here, and I need to go get some more water, so I'll be right back. Alright, I'm back. I got up to get water, and then I was like, oh god, I really need to pee. So I took a minute. So, let's talk about Pokemon. So, Pokemon held their Pokemon Presents earlier this week, and we gave our predictions last week, and I legitimately got it, like, 1-for-1. Of course, my big out-of-the-box prediction didn't happen. But, like, that, it was a big out-of-the-box prediction. Everything else is exactly what happened. And I still hope Ruby and Sapphire does happen in due time. But for the moment, right, we got what we got. Let me pull up my list real quick. I know they started by talking about the Pokemon World Championships. So the Pokemon World Championships are currently going on in Japan. For the first time in a few years, actually. And they're doing a ton of shit about it. I know Joe Merrick is currently there. I saw RT Game is there as well. So, right, they're having a lot of fun with that. A lot of this stuff I do not care about. Like, I don't really watch competitive Pokemon anymore. It's been years. Why does this... Okay, so the color scheme of orange and this pink reminds me of peanut butter and jelly. Right, you see that? Like, it's like a peanut butter and jelly colors. Because it's like a darker shade of pink, and this orange kind of has a brownish to it. Like, it's not gold. So yeah, so the one thing that did interest me, though, was they announced this Pokemon Path to the Peak. Which was like this Pokemon... It's I think, a series of Pokemon shorts about this girl who moves to a new town, and she ends up joining the Pokemon Club, where they play the Pokemon trading card game. And I saw this during the Direct and was like, oh, that looks very interesting, right? I loved the art style. The art style reminds me of something Pixar would do. You know, Luca turning red. It reminds me a lot of that. But it's more like 2D. Like, you know, Luca and Turning Red are 3D movies. This feels more 2D than that. I don't think it is 2D, but it looks like it. But I saw that and I was like, oh, that's really cool. And the first episode did come out. And guess what? I liked it. Yeah, no, it's very cute. Right? The girl moves to a new town, joins the Pokemon Club, after, you know, some struggles fitting in her new school. But then she gets her ass kicked. Right? She brings in her... I'm pretty sure it's her mother's old cards, even though her father is teaching her, like, how to play and how to get better. So I'm assuming... I hope in a future episode she finds out her mother used to be, like, a Pokemon card champion. And, like, she gets, like, a special training session from her mother. That would be very cute. But yeah, so she takes in her mom's old cards, gets her ass kicked. Then she's feeling bad afterwards, doesn't want to do it. But her father gives her some words of encouragement. And, you know, it's like, oh, you gotta picture it as if it's a real battle. And then she goes back to school and kicks everyone's ass. And then it ends with them introducing, like, the big rival at regionals. Right? That, oh, they're gonna play some actual, like, competitive games. And I'm like, oh, that's very cute, right? It's very... I liked it a lot. It's very cute. It's very heartwarming. The girl in her oddish. It's like, yeah, that's a lot of fun. It really reminds me of a Pixar movie. And I think that's great. Yeah, no, I'm all aboard on this. I'll be watching every episode, sure. And they're on YouTube, so you can just go watch them there. But yeah, that's cool. Let's see, what else? They talked about Detective Pikachu, which... It's Detective Pikachu. I don't know. Most people seem to not be impressed with it. I never played the first... I feel like my hesitation is that I never played the first one. So I'm not really interested in it because of that. But, you know, they're making it. It's coming out. I've seen people complain about the graphics a lot. And yeah, I mean, I guess it does look like... it does look kind of dated. But it's the Pokemon Company. I know we should expect more from them. But when have they ever not let us down? They're the Pokemon Company. It's their job. They talked about... Did they talk about Pokemon Unites? I know they talked about Cafe Remix. I remember that. I don't... Oh, Tatsugiri, I think, was in Cafe Remix. They talked about Pokemon Go and how they're adding the Gen 9 Pokemon. I love those shoes. In the lead-up to talking about the Gen 9 Pokemon being added to Pokemon Go, they showed a series of shoes that represented each generation. So, you know, you had red and green shoes for Gen 1. You had gold and silver shoes for Gen 2. You had Ruby and Sapphire shoes for Gen 3, Diamond and Pearl shoes for Gen 4, Black and White for Gen 5. I think the Gen 6 had an X and a Y on, like, the design, plus they're that red and blue color scheme. The Gen 7 for Alola had a sun and a moon, but they were also flip-flops. The Gen 8 shoes didn't, like, I think they had, like, a sword and shield in the laces, and then the Gen 9 shoes were, like, black, but they had, like, scarlet and violet on the back of them. Like, you could tell what they were doing. And I'm like, oh, those all look really nice. Like, I'm not a shoe guy at all. Like, definitely not. But I thought that was neat. I thought those were all neat little details. That was cool. So, yeah. But I still won't play Pokemon Go. No. I hear the game just went down the shitter at some point. Specifically, like, it started getting bad when the pandemic, right before the pandemic, and then they actually fixed a lot of things during the pandemic, and then when the pandemic ended, they undid all their fixes and made the game demonstrably worse. Let's see, what else? They talked about they're doing a Mew and Mewtwo event, so right now you can enter a code, I want to say the code's just like Get Mew, that gets you a Mew in Scarlet and Violet, and then in September, they're going to be doing a Mew raid, or a Mewtwo raid, where you have a chance to get Mewtwo. That's cool. You know, it's nice when you don't have to pay $50 fucking for a mythical Pokemon. I fucking hate mythical Pokemon. I've talked about this before. Mythical Pokemon fucking suck. I hate them. They're everything wrong with Pokemon in the gaming industry. $50 fucking for a Mew, my god. But they're doing a Mew event. Okay. From there, they then showed off the Teal Mask DLC, which, you know, we saw on one of the new Pokemon. It's like Driplin. Is it called Driplin? It's basically a new evolution of. I thought it was going to be like Convergent, like a Convergent form or something like that. But no, it's a new evolution of Applin. It still stays Dragon Grass. It's not a poison type, even though it kind of looks like it could be. But it's a new form of Applin that has a new signature move. And I'll be honest, I really like it. I think it looks like a caramel apple. I think that's a great idea for an Applin evolution. Because I do not like Appleton. Flapple's okay. Of the two, Flapple is definitely better. But I fucking hate Appleton. I was so excited to use Applin in Sword and Shield. And then, because I was playing Shield, I got Appleton. And I was just so heartbroken. Oh my god. Because I still think Applin's a great idea. And yeah, of the three designs, I definitely really like this new one. I don't remember if its signature move is actually anything that special. But it looks cool, right? It's a cool design. I'm all aboard for it. Everything else in the Teal Mask, I think, looks very interesting. We see the new Ogre Pawn. It has, like, a special mask form where it gets, like, a giant mask. We saw a bunch of the new Pokemon. If Meteor is going to be added to the game, I think it's going to be in the Teal Mask. So I think that's our best chance to get it. I pray to God it's there. Because it's one of the, like, 27 Pokemon that aren't available in either Sword or Shield or Scarlet or Violet. And so we know Zebtrika's coming back. I'm assuming Swana's coming back as well. I could see Furfrou being added in the Indigo Disc. But no, I'm actually really invested in the Teal Mask. I like the new Pokemon designs. I love the three new ones, Okidoki and the other two. I think those are great names. A lot of fun. So I'm, like, super invested in that. That looks pretty cool. What else? We have the release date for the Teal Mask, and it is September 13th. So that's in, like, again, technically, like, 2 days more than a month. Oh, well, it'll be 1 day more than a month because it's almost midnight, at least local. But no, I think I think both these DLCs have a lot of potential. They then showed the Indigo Disc, and right, they talked about the new Elite Four. So basically, Scarlet and Violet's going to have 2 Elite Fours. Cool. That's cool. Makes up for Sword and Shield not having an Elite Four at all, which I still find very weird. But, yeah, no, all the new characters look nice. We got some new designs. We got Purin, who oh my gosh. The amount of fucking bisexual energy on my timeline is ridiculous on Twitter. People love this new character. I mean, like, I know people were already hot and heavy for Adaman, so getting, you know, female Adaman, ooh, people are eating that up. And, like, I get it. I get it. But yeah, we also have this new, like, teacher that's wearing the Scarlet and Violet colors, and I just know that's going to be significant somehow, right? Like, the fact that they're dressed as Scarlet and Violet, that means something. They talked about the hidden treasure of Area Zero, which is totally going to be something. We saw the baby form of the new Indigo Disc Pokemon, who we had already seen in the anime, but now we see it in the games. We got, so another, one of my, right, we talked about, right, some of my favorite Pokemon who I hope gets in. Another one of my favorite Pokemon is Duraludon. And Duraludon's getting an evolution that I keep calling Arch-Duraludon. It's actually Archiraldon. It's like Archiraldon or Archildon, something like that. It's a bridge, right? Duraludon was a building. Archiraldon, which I'm just going to keep calling Arch-Duraludon, is a bridge. But that's only when it's unfolded. When it's folded, it looks like a staple remover, which I love. I love that design. My only disappointment is that we do not have a staple Pokemon to counteract it. Because, right, Duraludon is to Mechagodzilla what Tyranitar is to Godzilla, right? I know we do, right? We have 2 Godzilla Pokemon. I know some people say, well, Tyranitar is actually not based on Godzilla. He's based on this different character. He's Godzilla. Pokemon has used him as Godzilla for 20 years now. Yeah, and Duraludon was literally introduced as Mechagodzilla. So he's Mechagodzilla. I know there's the new Tyranitar metal. Yeah, no, he's still, Duraludon's still Mechagodzilla. And I love me some Mechagodzilla. So yeah, no, this new form looks great, but it also means that normal Duraludon can now use Eviolite. And everyone's freaking out about that, because that's going to make Duraludon very powerful. Eviolite Duraludon's going to be great. I have my competitive Duraludon in Gen 8 still sitting there, so I'll definitely have to move him up. You know, go on some adventures with him. Go fucking beat the Elite Four. Just gotta get an I think I have an Eviolite. Yeah, and then finally they showed the new Raikou and Entei, or Cobalion, not Raikou and Entei. They showed Raikou, and Cobalion. So in a previous update, we had Walking Wake and Iron Leaves, who were Virizion and Suicune. And yeah, it looks like we're probably going to get the full trio. So right, that update gave us Suicune and Virizion. Now we're getting Cobalion and Raikou. So Suicune was based on a Velociraptor. And Raikou is based on a Brontosaurus? I want to say it's a Brontosaurus, because I want to say Stegosauruses aren't real. There's one of those dinosaurs isn't real. Like, it's just something we made up, and then we maybe didn't make it up, but then we did make it up. I don't know. I feel like it's very heavily debated, but I want to say I was calling it a giraffe. No, it's based on a Brontosaurus, which makes me think that when they eventually reveal Entei, it's going to be based on, my guess would be like a Triceratops. I could see like the metal prong on the front of its head sticking out and up like Triceratops horns. I could see that happening. So that's going to be my guess. But I liked Suicune. I liked Walking Wake. This one is just goofy. I don't hate it. Like, I know some people really love the design because of how goofy it is. Some people really hate the design because of how goofy it is. I'm kind of whatever. I like that its head, when it's like all the way up, it looks like a storm cloud. Like its head is like in the clouds. That's kind of a neat detail. But other than that, it's kind of whatever. The Cobalion version, on the other hand, looks fantastic. The metallic, like, Iron Leaves, the Virizion, is whatever, right? It looks whatever. But this Cobalion one looks great. And, of course, that also means they're going to do Terrakion. And, you know, it's just going to have another robot form. Yeah, the dinosaur forms are so much more interesting than the robot forms. Just, like, I feel like there's so much more design potential. Right? Because robots are just robots. But like, by doing these ancient designs, I feel like dinosaurs just have so much more potential. But we'll see where it all ends out. But no, I don't think these the Raikou and Cobalion are related to the DLC in any way, right? Like, I don't think they're going to be special DLC. I'm assuming it's going to be like Virizion and Suicune, where it was just like, hey, we're going to do a special raid event. One is only in Scarlet, and the other one is only in Violet. And then I'm assuming when the final DLC comes out, the same thing's going to happen there for Entei and Terrakion. But no, and that's basically everything, right? We know the Teal Mask is coming out in September, and then the Indigo Disc will probably be in December. If I had to guess, it's going to be that first week of December. I think it would be very smart of them to advertise it at the Game Awards, which is usually on a Thursday night, and release it either that night or the next day. That would very much be in the Pokemon Company's interest to take advantage of the Game Awards audience. Because the Game Awards is usually the first week of December. So if I had to make a guess, I'd say that's right. Yeah, as a Pokemon conference goes, it was very predictable. It was exactly what I expected. I mean, I'm excited for the Teal Mask, but other than that, nothing else really stood out. Nothing else was super interesting to me. You know, it's Pokemon. I don't know. Again, that Path to the Peak was kind of cool. I liked that, and I hope that goes places. Oh, we also got Pokemon Stadium 2 and the Pokemon Trading Card game on Virtual Console, which I know people were excited for the Pokemon Trading Card game. And from what I hear, it still holds up. Like, it's still very good. I don't know. I've never played the Pokemon. As a kid, me and my friends did not know how to play the Pokemon Trading Card game. We just made up our own rules and just kind of went with it. So I still really, to this day, don't really know how to play the Pokemon Trading Card game. But I hear I know people really like the Game Boy game, and I hear this re-release is pretty good. And it even has, like, multiplayer online battling, which is kind of cool. Because I hadn't thought about that. For if they potentially release the older games, they're going to have online multiplayer trading, probably. Right? Like, that's going to probably be a feature that you can trade online with your friends. That's going to be really cool if they actually ever do it. I don't know if they will, but I hope they do. Alright, so next up, THQ Nordic held a conference today. They talked about how they had like 37 games in development, and they talked about 17 of them, or they showed off like a graphic with 17 of them. The only two I even kind of care about, one is Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, The Last Ronin. So I remember this game being rumored a few months, like back in like, what was it, March? It's been a while now. I remember there being a rumor for this game that it's actually inspired by God of War. You know, God of War 2018? A Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles game inspired by God of War sounds very interesting. I know there's that new Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles movie out right now. I cannot talk about it, so we're not going to. But a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles game inspired by God of War seems very interesting. We did get some sort of like little trailer thing, but from what I understand, the game isn't coming out for a few years. It's not coming out anytime soon, so yeah. Now the other game we got, and I didn't even know they had the license to this, but THQ Nordic is working on the new South Park game. right? I figured Ubisoft still had the license, because that just kind of makes sense, you know? They did the previous two, but it's been a long time. And I always thought they should make another South Park game. Because I really liked Stick of Truth. Fractured Butthole, I've played it. I played it earlier this year. I never beat it. I really should, but Stick of Truth I do really like. I just like it more than Fractured Butthole. So I figured, oh, Ubisoft has the license, but just hasn't done anything. But no, as it turns out, THQ Nordic has the license. And so their new game is called South Park Snow Day. Now, I feel like the concept behind this game, because it seems to be a continuation from Stick of Truth. In the trailer, they refer to you as the new kid. So I'm assuming, right, we're still the new kid from Stick of Truth and Fractured Butthole. But it takes place on a snow day, right? No school. That's a fantastic idea for right, the setup for a game, right, where you're playing as kids and whatnot. I think that's great. So I think of Codename Kids Next Door, where they used their Snow Day episode to do a Star Wars parody of Episode 5. Yeah, that's a lot of fun. God, that show's so good. Codename Kids Next Door is so good. I will forever be disappointed we never got Galactic Kids Next Door, because that would have been amazing. But, okay, so that's conceptually, I think the South Park game seems very interesting. But I have problems. The first one is the art style. Something that's really great about Stick of Truth and Fractured Butthole is that they just use the art style from the TV show. Right? Instead of trying to find like some video game middle ground, they just straight up are like, yep, we're going to make it look just like the show. And they nail it. It looks just like... I know South Park doesn't have a complicated art style. That did not stop the N64 from screwing things up. But no. Stick of Truth and Fractured Butthole perfected the art style. So I am kind of disappointed when this new game is doing the N64 thing and giving us 3D South Park. The South Park characters just don't look as good in 3D. What can I say? Like I would rather have them, you know, do something entirely new, right? Like all that fan art. I constantly see South Park fan art that's doing very interesting things. I would rather see them do something like that than just make the 2D sprites look 3D. It just doesn't look good. So that's my first big concern. My second big concern is that it's a multiplayer game. Yeah. 9 times out of 10, multiplayer games are filled with microtransactions. So, based on, right, South Park, one of the great things about Stick of Truth and Fractured Butthole is that they are just filled with character customization. Like, I remember Sonic Forces. When Sonic Forces came out, it was such a breath of fresh air to play a game with a character customization with no microtransactions. Because, you know, cosmetics are... Because that's when studios, right, decide to put microtransactions in their games. The first thing they do is take cosmetics out and turn them into microtransactions. And so Sonic was really cool. Sonic Frontier Forces, for all of its problems, it allowed you to make a custom character with tons of customization. And Stick of Truth and Fractured Butthole are both great at that. There's so much customization. I know for sure Fractured Butthole had DLC, like skins and whatnot. But I don't remember if Stick of Truth might have, but I don't remember it, honestly. But I was really impressed with, right, Stick of Truth's, especially for like a Ubisoft game. They toned it down. They definitely upped the ante in Fractured Butthole. But no, I really do worry that this game is going to be filled with microtransactions. It's going to be another fucking online service, games as a job, and I don't want that, especially from a South Park game. Because I know there was that South Park mobile game, I think it was called like Phone Destroyer, that was mobile microtransaction-y mobile game bullshit. I don't want that from a South Park game. South Park literally did an episode about why microtransactions were bad. So yeah, those two concerns, I don't know, we'll have to wait and see. It's not coming out until next year at the earliest. It still looks very... Maybe it's because of the 3D art style, but the game looks very rough. But I think that's just because it's early in development and whatnot. But we'll see. You know, maybe it'll be great, but I don't have my hopes up. I would not be surprised if it's a game like Diablo, like Minecraft Dungeons, you know, where it's kind of like baby's first Diablo. I would not be surprised if the South Park Snow Day is baby's second Diablo. I know South Park is not for kids, but that's never stopped them. Yeah, I would not be surprised if this is baby's second Diablo. So yeah, that's the two THQ Nordic things. So I guess that takes us into WIBE. So what have I been playing? Well, let's start off with Storyteller. So I'd seen this a few places, but it's a puzzle game called Storyteller. And it's basically you're given like a setup, an end goal, and you have to complete that end goal by putting characters in a book, right? You've got a storybook filled with tons of classic like fairy tale characters, and your goal is to just make the ending. So right, it's like the setup, like the end prompt is like evil queen poisons Snow White. So you then have to use the characters you're given, right? Like evil queen, cauldron room, forest, and then Snow White, and you have to like go through the scene and, you know, play it out like you're writing the story. So you start off with the evil queen looking in the mirror, then she disguises herself as a witch, then she gives the poison apple to Snow White, then she turns herself back to normal, and then she looks in the mirror to see herself as the most fairest of them all. Right? And it's all setups like that. Or there's levels inspired by like Shakespeare, where you have to have one character kill another character and then get killed by the character's ghost. So that way the last person standing can become king. Right? Tons of stuff like that. There's murder mysteries, there's vampires, werewolves, tons of other stuff like that. And I'm like, okay, this seems like a fun little puzzle game. You know, usually, I was thinking about it, every year when I make a Game of the Year list, there's always at least one puzzle game on it. Right? Last year it was a donut. 2 of those years it's been donut games, Donut County and Freshly Frosted. Last year it was Freshly Frosted. And so I was like, oh, maybe this will be the fun little puzzle game that makes Game of the Year this year. It is not going to be that. My problem with the game is that it's short. You can beat this game in like 2 hours. And normally, you know, I've said it before, Donut County is a great example. I like a good game that doesn't overstay its welcome, that uses its mechanics to the fullest, and, you know, is in and out in like 2 to 3 hours. And yeah, that's what this was, a game that I was in and out in 2 hours. It had some fun mechanics, but I don't feel like it utilized them to the fullest. Like, there are certain things that only appear in like a single panel or a single page of the book. So basically a single level. Like werewolves. So there's a whole mechanic where you can put this guy under a full moon and he turns into a werewolf. And then, right, he kills... I think one of the comics has you have to kill somebody as a werewolf. And another story is, you know, getting revenge and having some guy take a silver bullet to kill the werewolf. And that's it. Those are the only 2 levels with the werewolf in them. The vampire, on the other hand, right, has one person get infected by the vampire. Then you kill the vampire to cure the girl. And that's it. So, right, someone gets infected, another person kills Dracula, and now the girl is saved. And there's only a single level with a vampire in it. You never get to let the vampire and werewolf fight each other, right? And there's tons of shit like that. And, like, on the game's, like, store page, there's, like the image that, like, represents the game features, like, robots and, like, Pegasuses and all sorts of other, like, creatures like that, like fantasy and mythology and whatnot. Like, there's, like, lightning. At no point in the game does lightning ever show up. I feel like the game was... I don't want to say it's unfinished, but I feel like there's so much more potential. Like, the game could have been double in length. I 100%ed it. right? Because you can beat every level, and then there are a few optional levels, or like there's a few optional objectives, where it's like, oh, beat this level a second time, but make sure nobody dies this time, or, right, make sure a different character than the one you killed the first time dies. So, right, there are some optional objectives but only, like, probably of the, like, maybe 30 levels. Honestly, 30 might be too many. No, it's usually, I would say there's probably about 30. Of the 30 levels, maybe, I don't even think 10 of them have optional objectives. It's a very small amount. The difficulty does ramp up, you know, there were some level, like there was one level in the late game where you had to get a character to kill his own uncle, and it was just me trying to figure out, like, okay, how, because all you can do is make a character someone else's father. So it was like, okay, how do I set this up to make a character kill his uncle? So that was a whole thing I had to, like, figure out. But I did eventually figure that out. There was another one where you have to get a knight and a maid to kill the king and queen, but the maid likes the king and the knight likes the queen, so somehow you have to get them to, like, push each other off the cliff. They use the cliff one. There's, like, one of the death scenarios is, like, being pushed off a cliff, and they use that one so much. I was so disappointed to see how many times that comes up. Like, I just wanted some more, like, I could have had other scenarios that worked the exact same way, just with, like, different set dressings. That would have been more interesting. Like, I don't think there's ever a point where somebody gets, like, stabbed. I know somebody can get beheaded. That's the one that comes up. But nobody ever gets stabbed. I don't know. It's a fine game, you know, for, like, I definitely, if it's ever, like, on sale, because I want to say the game was, like, $15. I don't know if it's worth $15, but definitely if it ever went on sale for like 10 or less even, for like a solid like 2 hours of gameplay, especially if you're into puzzle games like that, I'd recommend it. But other than that, nah, it's not, I don't, like, it's got some fun moments, it's got some interesting puzzles, but I wish it was like double the length. I feel like there's just so much missed potential here. Because the setup of, you know, recreating these classic stories using limited resources was very interesting. And it just feels like they didn't fully explore the idea. Like they only went halfway. Because I do feel like there was so much more potential here. Another puzzle game I played this week was called Word Factory. So I remember seeing this game on TikTok. I remember the developers talking about it. And I want to say back in February, I played the demo. And we talked about the demo, and I was like, oh yeah, it's a Zack-like game, you know, it seems very interesting. Well, I learned this week that it finally came out. So I was like, oh, cool, you know, I like this game. I love Zack-like games. You know, I love Opus Magnum and Infinifactory. Also, Space Chem's pretty good, even though I suck at it. So I was like, yeah, I'd love a Zack-like game where you're making words. That's a very good idea. So the basic premise of how the game works is you start off with the letter I. And then if you bend the I, you make a C. If you combine two I's, you make a V. Right? So you're basically just combining letters, or you're combining like different parts of I's and V's, and like if you combine a V and an I, you make an N. If you combine two V's, you make a W. Right? Stuff like that. And you're just trying to, you know, spell out all the words. And yeah, you know, it's a pretty fun concept. I think for like a Zack-like game, you know, it uses the mechanics very well. Because, you know, you're, instead of being judged on like, oh, certain requirements for beating levels, and there is some of that, but it's mostly like, oh, well, can you beat this level using the minimum number of buildings? Can you beat this level using the minimum number of moves, like turns? And then can you beat this level using the minimum amount of supplies? So when I was playing, I tend to focus on what was the minimum number of buildings I could use. And I hit a lot of those levels in the minimum. Right? The minimum amount needed to beat the game. But yeah, I was like, okay, this, I see the potential here. And I enjoyed it. But kind of like the previous game, I have a similar problem. Because I think my biggest problem with this game can be summed up in this one sentence. Is that throughout the main campaign of this game, you are never required to use the letter M. Which points out my biggest problem being there also are not enough levels in this game. To beat the main campaign of this game, it's only 36 levels. 6 worlds with 6 levels in each world. They could have, the thing is they've designed more levels than that. Because there is a level creator. And, that's a good idea. But I wish there was more levels. Especially if there were more restrictive levels. Because throughout the game, there are the normal levels where you just have to spell the word. And the challenge levels, where you are given limited supplies to spell out the word. So, for example, there was one level where you could not use the vertical or horizontal flippers. You only could rotate pieces. So as a result, you had to spell letters without being able to flip them horizontally or vertically. There was another level that only gave you one of each flipper. So you could turn it left or you could turn it right. That was it. There was another level where you only could use 2 factories that fuse 2, because there's factories that fuse 2 things, factories that fuse 3 things, and factories that fuse 4 things. And so there was one level that you could only fuse 2 things in, and that makes it harder because there are some words that are a lot easier to spell if you can fuse 3 or 4 letters together. The challenge levels are pretty interesting. And near the end of the game, there were some that I really liked. There was one where you had to spell the word axe, A-X, but it only gives you enough pieces to spell either the letter A or the letter X. So you have to figure out, maybe there's an alternate way to spell one of these letters. Because each letter has a different solution, right? So, you can make an A by taking a V, flipping it upside down, and combining it with a horizontal line. That tends to be the easiest way to make a V. But at some point I learned that if you squish a V with one of the machines that turns an I into a C, if you take one of those machines and you squish an H, it makes an A. So that's how you make an A, right? That's the other alternative. And then I later figured with X, you just take a V that's facing either top or bottom or left and right, and you can make a V that way, or an X that way. But since this level only gives you one left rotation and one right rotation, right, if you use them both to make the X, then you need at least one to make the A. So, right, or the H. So, right, it was limiting until I figured out that if you take an K and squeeze it, it'll make an X, right? You can turn a K into an X. So technically, most levels have multiple solutions. Not always, but right, you can, one example is you can spell an N by combining a V and an I. But if you take a 3-prong machine and put 3 I's in it, it will also make an N. Right, you can make a W by combining 2 V's, or by combining 4 I's. You can make an R by combining a D and a V, or you can make an R by combining 3 I's and a C, a backward C. That will also make an R. So most levels have multiple solutions, or right, most letters can be spelled with multiple solutions. And that's why I think the challenge levels are so interesting. Because turning a K into an X is something I would have never needed to know if it wasn't for that challenge level. So that's why I'm disappointed of the 36 levels. There's only maybe less than half of them are challenge levels. I wish this game had at least 50 levels and 30 of them were challenge levels. Because the challenge levels are way more interesting. But, and I know the challenge levels aren't very Zack-like. Because Zack-like games are usually about giving you everything you need. And just, you know, figuring it out. But I feel like that would get kind of boring in a game like this. Because, you know, you're literally just making levels. And I think some Zack-likes do restrictions. Or, like, have pieces that are automatically placed that you have to, like, work around. But I feel like the challenge levels are super interesting. And there just aren't enough of them. So that was kind of a letdown. And then if you beat the first 30 levels, you're then like, hey, congratulations, you beat the game, but there is a secret level, and it shows you a door, right? There's a set of secret levels. Now, my first thought was like, oh, well, how do you unlock this door? So I'm gonna just tell you how to unlock it right now, full spoilers ahead. But so my first thought was, oh, you go into the custom level creator and make a level that spells out key, and maybe that'll open the door. And I was half right, because what it turns out, right, you have to go into a level, spell out key, but then use a 3-letter combiner to make a key before you send it to the exit. And then you have to use the 4-letter combiner to make a door. So, right, you get D, O, O, and R. And when you combine them in a 4-letter combiner, it makes a door. And then once you put the key and door into the output slot, it will unlock the 6 final levels. Which the 6 final levels are, throughout the game, I had been discovering, like, secret symbols. Like, so if you press an I, if you bend it, it turns into a C. But I found out if you bend it again, it turns into a bracket. Or, what is it? Okay, bracket's not the word I'm looking. You know, like one of those, like, elongated, like, close, open bracket, right, close bracket. It turns into one of those. And I'd also found out if you combine 2 horizontal I's, it makes an equal sign. If you combine a T and an I, it makes a plus sign. And because of that key level that teaches you that, right, if you spell letters out, you'll get their outputs, I was like, oh, if you combine the letters O, N, and E, it'll make the letter 1. And sure enough, you can spell out the alphabet. Right, you can spell out 1, 2, you can't do 3, but you can do 4, you can do 5, you can do 6, 7, no, you can't do 7, you can't do 8, but you can do 9. I didn't try 10, I don't know if you can do 10. I know you can do 0, though. So these bonus levels are all about finding these hidden symbols to solve the game. And, like, that was cool, but again, there's only, like, 6 of them, and there's no, I don't think any of them are challenge levels, and I don't think you also ever need the letter 8. Now, after you beat these letters, you get a number code. And I was like, oh, maybe this number code will unlock, like, another secret level. As far as I can tell, it does nothing. And then, you know, after that, you unlock the custom level create. I mean, you have it from the start, but, you know, you can go do the custom level creator. Kind of like mini Metro or mini Motorways. There's, like, a challenge of the day. So, like, there is stuff to do after you beat the game, but I wish the main story was longer. Because I would definitely recommend Mini Motorways over this game any day of the week. Now, I will say this game was cheap. I think Storyteller I paid $15 for. This one, I think I only paid $5. And so, right, in comparison, it was a lot cheaper. And so, I definitely do think I got my monies out of it. But I just wish it was longer, man. I feel like there's so much potential here. And who knows? You know, Mini Motorway and Mini Metro added DLC for years. I mean, Mini Motorways is still getting DLC to this day. So, you know, maybe there is hope that we'll get more levels and whatnot. But for the moment, there's just 36. After you beat the game, it tells you how many people have completed the game. And I was the 226th person to beat the game in the world. Which I know, right, that's not that big of a deal, but hey, it happened. I took a screenshot of it just so that I remembered. There is a speedrunning mode you also unlock after you beat the game. And I feel like, I don't know if anyone's run it yet. But if nobody has, I feel like I could set that record. I feel like it's a pretty... Right, because it's just you memorize whatever the fastest solution for each level is. I feel like that's... And with only 36 levels, I feel like that's a pretty quick speed run. I'd be kind of curious to give it a try. I don't know. I don't have much speedrunning experience, but I was kind of like, because at the time when I beat the game, nobody had, like, people had speedrun the demo, but nobody had speedrun the actual game itself. Even though there is a speedrunning mode, which surprised me. But I was like, oh, could I be that person? Yeah, maybe. So yeah, that was that. Again, $5. That's not bad. I've played worse games. But I've also played better games. Again, I recommend Opus Magnum, which is a Zachtronics game. So much. I love Opus Magnum. Is it their best game? Nah, Infinifactory is probably better, but Opus Magnum is my favorite. I really enjoy Opus Magnum. I highly recommend it. And yeah, I guess I learned recently that I guess Zachtronics is no longer making games. That they made one last game, and then they were like, yeah, the people working at the studio decided to go their separate ways. Which, you know, that kind of sucks, but it was a great run. Plenty of great stuff. I own their book. They put a book out at one point, and I was like, oh yeah, I'll buy that. I think I kickstarted it or whatever. So yeah. Have we fought a single team Thane tonight? I feel like it's all been love or money. I don't think we've come across a single team Thane. I could totally be misremembering, but I don't think we've come across one yet. So yeah, the only other game I played this week was, I'd been wanting to play City Skylines. I'd just been having that, like, I'm gonna use craving for lack of a better word. I'd been having that craving to play City Skylines. I know City Skylines 2 comes out in, I want to say either September or October. It's less than 100 days now. It's like right around the corner. And, you know, I don't know if I'll be picking up City Skylines 2, but I owned the original City Skylines on PS4. I know they remastered it for PS5 at some point, but I never actually picked up the remaster. And, like, I was going to pick up the remaster if I could, like, upgrade from the PS4 edition to the PS5 edition, but turns out that's not an option, at least when I looked it up. So I can't do that, so I'm just like, nah, I'll just play the PS4 version. You know, it seems to have all the same content. So I've been playing some City Skylines. My city is literally just boxes, right? I've been trying to make for the most space-efficient city possible. So I've just been using boxes. I've been trying not to fuck up the water. Ran out of power at one point, and that became a massive issue. I'm very early on. I only played for like 2 or 3 hours. But I do, you know, when I was younger, games like City Skylines, or I guess SimCity, it was SimCity at the time. And games like The Sims just were not my style. Like, the closest I ever got to a game like that was Animal Crossing. And then at some point, I just kind of, like, changed. Was it Tomodachi Life's fault? Maybe. But I started to have an appreciation for games like City Skylines. I've never played The Sims, but I love watching people play The Sims, right? Especially people who are making, like, comedy videos out of it. The Let's Game It Out video brings me to tears. His 2 videos with Keanu, right, trapping people in the house and then running the veterinary clinic, are so fucking funny. But yeah, City Skylines is also good. I remember RT Game, right, big into City Skylines. I remember when he, you know, first switched over from making TF2 content. That was like one of the first games he played, and he's done some great stuff in it. And so I was, you know, so I've always kind of had City Skylines on my radar. I bought it years ago on PlayStation, but I'd never actually put that much time into it. And now, just this week, I was like, yeah, I really want to put some time into it. So I did. But I want to play City Skylines, and I kind of want to play Stardew Valley as well. Now, admittedly, Stardew Valley is probably a much longer commitment than SimCity, or City Skylines. Because remember, if you remember earlier this year, I was playing Planet Coaster, and that was okay. That was, right, it wasn't entirely what I wanted. City Skylines is definitely more of the experience I'd wanted from Planet Coaster. So yeah, I've been enjoying it. You know, it's far... There are far worse games to play. And City Skylines 2 comes out relatively soon, but I want to say it comes out during the, like, Starfield, Super Mario, Wonder, Spider-Man 2, like, days. Like, it's somewhere's in there. So I probably won't get around to playing it for a while. I don't know. If it comes out in, like, early October or late September, maybe. But other than that, probably not. Alright. Let's just go visit the shops real quick, and then we'll end off. We actually did okay today. I feel like we got... I know we're halfway through Money Defender, but I feel like we had some pretty decent matches today. Again, I don't think we came across a single person on Team Fame. I could be wrong about that, but I cannot think of a single time we saw green ink tonight. Oh, wow, a shirt we don't have. I'm actually racking up good money. You know, I was broke for a long time. Oh, we got a mystery box. Anything but cards. Oh, an emote we already have. Okay, I probably would have taken cards over that. Oh, we got a badge. Alright, so it looks like that's where we're ending off tonight, because that's all I mean, there were other things, but nothing I can talk about because of the strike. So, yeah, let's just not. So what's coming up for the stream? No idea. Again, I have nothing planned for August. We're not streaming Starfield. I've said that multiple times. So that's definitely not happening. We're done with Pikmin. We're done with, because we finally beat Pikmin. God, I enjoyed that game so much. Go buy Pikmin. The next thing we have is what, Spider-Man in October. So that'll probably be the next thing we do is Spider-Man. Both the Spider-Man PS4 and Miles Morales. Not the new one, just the two old ones. Which I do want to do. So yeah, and then, you know, whatever else comes, whatever else comes. I was thinking about Fall Guys the other day, but I really don't want to boot up Fall Guys again. It's been so long, and the game's kind of dead to me, you know. They just ruined it, and that sucks. And, like, I don't hear anybody talking about it anymore. Like, I know it was dead game for a while, but now it feels really dead game. Oh, I did finally get into Blue Sky. You know, Blue Sky Social. I finally got an invite code for that. So, fulcrum.bluesky.com or whatever it is. You can go check that out. Because, like, I'm not on Mastodon. I'm not on Threads. But, you know, I got the invite to Blue Sky, and I was like, yeah, sure, I'll take it. Yeah, fulcrum.bsky.social. So, yeah. If you're also there, I'm over there. Haven't tweeted anything, or haven't skied, posted, whatever it's called. Yeah, I haven't socialed anything yet. I don't know if I will social anything. But I have the account. Did this pathway always look like this? I don't really remember these arches here. Maybe they're only for the first day of the Splatfest? Because the thing does go through here. By all the Yuri. Oh my god. That's good. That's funny. Yeah. I do fully expect the Splatoon DLC to be out next month. Because it is the 1-year anniversary of Splatoon 3 in September. And for Splatoon 2, at the 1-year anniversary, they put out the Octo expansion. So I would not be surprised if the next part of the DLC comes out then. I would also kind of not be surprised if it comes out later. But I feel like the 1 year anniversary is a good bet. Hopefully they do something for the 1 year anniversary. Again, I was kind of surprised we got 2 Splatfests back to back. So it's possible. I mean, we could get another anniversary Splatfest. You know what I would love to see? I don't think it'll be for another year, because they usually save it for the last Splatfest. But I would love to see Squid Sisters versus Off the Hook versus Deep Cut. That'd be a great Splatfest. That will hopefully happen one day. I think it's almost guaranteed that it will happen one day. But not anytime soon. So those Chugga Conroy logos go by. What game is he playing right now? Is he doing Black and White 2? I don't know. I feel like I haven't watched the Chugga Conroy video in forever. So yeah, it looks like that's all we've got for tonight. We'll be back next week's, hopefully earlier. I don't know. I feel like since we've moved to Friday, I'm now like 2 hours later. Like, that's just kind of how it's worked out. Yeah, he is doing Black and White too. Okay. So yeah, like I said, I don't have anything planned for the stream other than that, so I guess we'll just roll with that for now. And we'll actually start doing shit again in October. I don't know. Maybe I'll try to speedrun this Word Factory game. Maybe not, but maybe I will. You never know. So with that, I hope you all enjoyed. Stay tuned for more. Until next time, peace.